This is Part 2, Episode 47. Elder Mu's voice resonated at this moment. Hui Yuhao, tell me, what is spiritual power? Hui Yuhao was different from both Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao, in that he was already used to spiritual interaction. He immediately used his spiritual C to reveal his answer. Spiritual power is will. Elder Mu said, that's right, spiritual power is will. And the key to training one's spiritual power is through resistance and pressure. Your spiritual power is much stronger than I had imagined. There's no other way to describe it other than the fact that you have an unusual gift. Since you have twin martial souls and the ultimate ice as one of them, can you tell me why you didn't choose the ultimate ice to be your main martial soul, but instead chose your spirit eyes? Hui Yuhao replied, that's because the ice jade scorpion is too powerful. Its powers can only be fully unleashed when the soul rings on it are stronger. That's why I hope to use the spirit eyes to accumulate sufficient strength, and ensure that the soul rings on the ice jade scorpion are at least 10,000 years and above. Elder Mu laughed suddenly. Little fellow, what's the level of your ice jade scorpion's first soul ring? This, Hui Yuhao turned anxious. He realized that he couldn't lie to Elder Mu. 100,000-year soul ring, am I right? Elder Mu's words were like a Class 9 soul tool cannon shell as they struck Hui Yuhao. Elder Mu said, in fact, you've concealed it very well. You managed to conceal your second martial soul's first soul ring with your spirit eye's second soul ring's imitation. Others can't tell, but it's different for me. Do you know why? Elder Mu exclaimed. I have cultivated for my entire life, and roamed the continent for more than 200 years. I have seen countless soul masters, and even more martial souls. But it's my first time seeing a situation like yours. I sense the special characteristic of your second martial soul. I even went to the extreme north for it, and caught an ice jade scorpion. It's indeed different. Although your martial soul is similar to an ice jade scorpion, there were no ice jade scorpions that possessed the azure green, 5-joint tail like your martial soul. After a period of observation, I discovered that stronger ice jade scorpions had greener tails. That's why I'm certain that if your second martial soul belongs to an ice jade scorpion, it must be the king of the ice jade scorpions. It may even be the ice jade emperor scorpion, the second among the 3 heavenly kings of the extreme north and the top among the 10 great savage beasts. A deep fear rose from Hui Yuhao's heart. Elder Mu actually went to the extreme north to verify his martial soul, and even conducted research on the ice jade scorpions in the extreme north. He had made an accurate analysis. Elder Mu was indeed too brilliant. Hui Yuhao felt as if he was entirely exposed in front of Elder Mu. Elder Mu continued saying, when I returned, I analyzed this condition that appeared on your body. The only answer that I have is that you possess 100,000-year soul ring and 100,000-year soul bone. To better observe your condition, I watched the tournament in Star Luo City, especially the few important rounds. Your abilities were revealed when you faced strong opponents, especially when you unleashed your domain-type ability. I can clearly feel that your bones have surpassed normal conditions. This has also further verified my judgment. But your imitation skill was good, and you concealed it well. Even I couldn't get the complete picture. It's been at least 50 years since something has aroused my curiosity. But you've aroused it now. I wondered then, how was it possible for a teenager like you to fuse with an ice jade emperor scorpion's soul ring and soul bone? And this ice jade emperor scorpion must have had a cultivation of at least 200,000 years. You even made it your martial soul. I am certain that less than 5 people in Shrek Academy can bear the fusion of that kind of optimal soul ring, and those people already have 9 rings to themselves. 9 rings is the limit of an ordinary soul master, and we don't have twin martial souls. The fact is that even if we could find and kill an ice jade emperor scorpion, we couldn't put its soul ring to use. I discovered later on that the power of the ice jade emperor scorpion should exist in your body. But it's just that this power has been sealed. How did this seal come about? You've indeed piqued my curiosity. I thought for a good 6 months before coming up with a forced guess. Before you went to the extreme north and planned to obtain the second soul ring for your spirit eyes, you met the ice jade emperor scorpion, who couldn't break through its bottleneck. The ice jade emperor scorpion couldn't bear for its formidable strength to disappear before it passed on, thus it sealed its powers and gave them to you. That's how you got your second martial soul. You were also given its soul ring and soul bone. It seems like this is the only logical explanation, but here comes the question. Why did you go to the extreme north to hunt for soul beasts and soul rings even though you possess a spiritual type martial soul? Even though the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion sealed your powers, it's not something that someone as small as you should be able to bear. And how did the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion become your martial soul directly? I can't find the answers to these. Hui Yuhao pursed his lips and did not speak. Elder Mu's guess wasn't entirely correct, but it was close to the answer. Elder Mu smiled and said, "There are too many peculiarities on your body. If I didn't observe your body and verify that you were human, I might really suspect that you were a soul beast reborn. Everyone has their own destiny. I can't fully tell your condition, but I can see steadiness and sincerity on you. Your performances in the tournament left me extremely comforted too. If you're willing to, I hope to play the role as your listener before I leave this world. But I won't force you." Underground Hall. Elder Mu was still in the center of the hall. But he had laid back onto his reclining chair. Yang Xiaozhe and Xian Lina stood beside him. Yang Xiaozhe asked in a low voice, "Teacher, are you really not going to clarify things?" Elder Mu shook his head and said, "There's no need to. He's a human, and his bloodline is obviously not from the Sun Moon Empire. With these two premises, the rest is unimportant. He's still young, and can still be molded. We can't chill his heart, because of our doubts." Yang Xiaozhe creased his brows slightly and said, "If is a spy sent by the other side?" Xian Lina suddenly snorted coldly, "If it were you, would you send someone with an ultimate martial soul to be a spy? Furthermore, I analyzed Hui Yuhao's progress and experience after he entered the academy. His powers only soared after he graduated from first grade. He must have met with that weird encounter during the holidays. If it were you, would you tell anyone if you had such an encounter?" Yang Xiaozhe wasn't infuriated because of Xian Lina's tone. He only replied as if something was on his mind, "Lina, I understand what you're saying. But don't you find it a coincidence that the Spirit Eye's second soul ring came to possess imitation, at the same time, he gained the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion as his martial soul? It's so coincidental that it seems everything was planned." Xian Lina said coldly, "I only know that I would recall my spy if he obtained an ultimate martial soul from some miraculous opportunity, and nurture him with all my strength. At the same time, I would not send an 11-year-old kid into my enemy's camp. How unpredictable are kids. Yang Xiaozhe, you're always so narrow-minded and lack magnanimity." Yang Xiaozhe turned red and white from Xian Lina's censure. But he didn't dare to flare up in front of Elder Mu. After leaving the classroom block, she returned to the dormitory quickly. She seemed to be thinking of something as she walked. "Pretty lady, give me some face and have a meal with me." At this point, a figure blocked her way. As she was walking very quickly, she almost walked into that person. Scram. Tang Wei was enraged, and lifted her head. Everyone knew about her relationship with Bei Bei. Did someone from the outer courtyard just try to take liberties with her? However, her eyes never shifted once she lifted her head. That handsome face that appeared gentle and refined wore a slight smile on it as it filled Tang Wei's gaze. "You still remembered to return." Tang Wei's voice trembled a little. Bei Bei laughed slightly. "How could I not return when my wife's here? What if she runs away with someone else?" "Who's your wife?" Tang Wei reprimanded him, "You're so rude. I'm the head of the Tang sect, your teacher." Bei Bei extended his arms and the smile on his face didn't change. "Come teacher, give me a hug." Tang Wei pursed her lips lightly and glared at him. After that, she rushed into his arms and hugged his waist tightly. She started to bawl. Bei Bei hugged her slender finger, and was a little stunned. "What's wrong? Did someone really bully you?" In his heart, Tang Wei had always been like a cheerful angel. Although she had the heavy burden of rebuilding the Tang sect, she was still a very cheerful person. Although Bei Bei had been away from her for a long time, she should have at most censured him with a few words. She wouldn't wail uncontrollably like this. Tang Wei didn't reply, and only hugged him as she cried. She cried until Bei Bei's shirt was drenched with her tears. She then lifted her swollen, red eyes and said, "I'm fine." Bei Bei lifted his hand uncourteously above her head and knocked it. "Why would you cry so hard if nothing was wrong? Let's return to the dormitory first." Tang Wei's dorm mate was Jiang Nan Nan. Jiang Nan Nan was not around, as she had followed Shusansha to the pharmacy and wouldn't return anytime soon. It wasn't Bei Bei's first time sneaking into the ladies' dorm. Although the academy had rules, they couldn't possibly catch every trespasser. Tang Wei opened her door, and entered before opening the window for Bei Bei to climb in. He wasn't spotted. But even if he was, who in the outer courtyard would dare to expose him? Tang Yue and Jiang Nanan's room didn't have too many decorations. It was simple and pleasant. Jiang Nanan's mattress even had patches. Tang Yue dragged Bei Bei onto the bed to sit down. She leaned into his arms and hugged him tightly. There was no news even though all of you were gone for so long. How was the tournament? Bei Bei gazed at her deeply and didn't pursue the doubt in his heart. He recounted his experiences to her. He had always been someone who could control his temperament and was patient. That's why he recounted everything in detail, and only finished when it had already turned dark outside. What? The Academy rewarded all of you by making all of you Shrek's 7 monsters. Tang Yue was stunned and she sat up. She opened her eyes wide and looked at him as if she didn't recognize him. Bei Bei nodded and said, I'm very surprised too, but I'm also delighted. Why? Are you not delighted? You need to know that 5 of us out of the 7 hails from Tang sect. Tang Yue furrowed her brows and shook her head slightly. I'm elated for all of you. But can all of you still do anything for Tang sect now that all of you have become Shrek's 7 monsters? Too many of the Academy's imprints have been carved onto your bodies. Bei Bei laughed uncontrollably. Why not? The Academy won't restrict our freedom. Furthermore, the relationship between the Academy and Tang sect has always been quite good. How is it good? Tang Yue was furious as she shook her head. Her eyes even flashed with a tinge of hostility. Where was the Academy when the Tang sect was going downhill? I was chased out of my own home. Where were they when the Tang sect ended? Did they ever help us as the continent's top academy? Bei Bei was a little stunned as he looked at Tang Yue's expression. Xiao Yue, are you fine? Your emotions are. It was his first time seeing Tang Yue revealing such an expression. Tang Yue threw her head down forcefully, as if she was trying to wrench something to the ground. She lowered her head and said, Sorry, I'm fine. Bei Bei couldn't see that a shred of dim purple had flashed across Tang Yue's bright, wide eyes. It wasn't the glow of the purple demon eyes, but a dim purple that carried an aura of death. Bei Bei hugged her once again and said, Xiao Yue, don't waste your time. The Tang sect declined because due to its own actions. Besides the lack of advantage of secret weapons, the Tang sect's past leaders also had all sorts of problems. These led to the fall of the Tang sect, which was once prosperous. But you should be seeing a glimmer of hope now. There's Yu Hao, He Kai-tu, Wang Dong, Xiao Xiao and me by your side. We can help you rebuild the Tang sect, help it become prosperous again when our powers grow. We're still young, and we've time to work hard for the Tang sect's rise. Tang Yue laughed bitterly and said, But have you ever thought of what I'm capable of doing for Tang sect as its leader? All of you are already Shrek's 7 monsters, but I'm getting further and further from all of you. I'm also aware that I won't make it into the inner courtyard. I'm not that capable, and the inner courtyard won't let me in just because I'm the Tang sect's leader. Xiao Yue, listen to me, Bei Bei said gently, we're still young. Why do you have to be so impatient? Tang Yue buried her face in his arms. Stop persuading me. You don't know how hard it was for me to make this decision. I must leave. I've already tendered my leave from the academy. I hesitated on whether I should wait for you to return. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to make my decision when you return. But I was more afraid that my sudden departure would be too much for you to bear and affect your studies. That's why I decided to bear the pain of my departure and tell you about it clearly. Bei Bei's body shook. Xiao Yue, have you really made up your mind? He understood her and knew the stubbornness that was deeply rooted in her bones. Tang Yue nodded slightly. Bei Bei took in a deep breath and tried to calm himself down forcefully. Where are you going then? At least tell me the place so that I can find you during the holidays. Tang Yue replied softly. I will return to the Heavenly Soul Empire where the Tang sect originated. I will rebuild the Tang sect in the Heavenly Soul Empire's capital. Our Tang sect's family is also there. Heaven Do City was named to remember the Heaven Do Empire that once existed. The Tang sect will always be tied to this city. While the Tang sect may not be around temporarily, they are still connected. I will go back and contact them. I'll at least find a place for the Tang sect. Bei Bei creased his brows. Must you go to Heaven Do City? The Tang sect's former address was there. I'm afraid they will do something bad to you. Tang Yue answered, I won't let them discover me. This is unless I can push them into a corner and regain the Tang sect's territory one day. Bei Bei saw the hostility in Tang Ya's eyes once again, and was filled with discomfort. What if I don't let you go? Tang Ya's gaze turned tender again. She gently caressed his face. Bei Bei, you're the one who understands me the best in this world. I can't do anything for the Tang sect in terms of my abilities. If you don't let me contribute to the rebuilding of Tang sect, I won't be happy. I will wait for you in the Heaven Do City, as I set up the Tang sect's foundation. We'll seize the Tang sect's estate and rebuild the sect one day when you, Hui Yuhao and the rest achieve something. This is something I have to do. Hui Yuhao was like a small boat amidst a spiritual windstorm, as the immense spiritual power exerted pressure on him. He maintained himself as the windstorm raged. While the windstorm was very frightening, he never submitted. Hui Yuhao was also unsure of how much time had passed. His spiritual sea seemed to be hammered into shape as it was assaulted repeatedly. His spiritual sea had shrunk by a third from the start till now. But he realized that his spiritual power had become more condensed at the same time. Based on the total spiritual power in the quiet chamber, it would be impossible for Hui Yuhao to bear if they were all in an offensive state. They could tear his spiritual sea apart instantly. But the spiritual power was scattered in this enclosed space. Some of them exerted pressure, but didn't attack him. That's why Hui Yuhao could still hold on. The external assault became weaker, as Hui Yuhao condensed his spiritual power. He also calmed down. He was comprehending the changes in his body and the new capabilities he possessed. Every soul skill and all the strength in his body was growing as he comprehended his body and everything within it. Hui Yuhao could recall that Elder Mu once told him to find his own path. It was only through finding his own path that his future road to mastery would become smoother, and he would not be lost. But what was his path? Soul Master. Soul Engineer. Assault Type, Ultimate Ice Soul Master. Control Type, Spirit Eyes Soul Master. Everything he learned seemed a little heterogeneous now. And didn't seem to come together. The path he was supposed to find was supposed to teach him how to fuse all his strengths together. The external pressure sparked the enhancement of his spiritual power, and he also became more and more composed. He wasn't anxious at all. He tried to painstakingly sense all the capabilities in his internal world and slowly find the path that belonged to him. What's your path? Elder Mu laid quietly on the recliner chair and looked at the young lady in front of him with a gentle gaze. Xiao Xiao had grown thinner. She wasn't fat in the first place, but was even thinner now. She even seemed a little bony. But her eyes had become brighter. My path is auxiliary. Xiao Xiao answered without hesitation. Oh. Elder Mu was a little stunned. Why did you choose auxiliary? Xiao Xiao answered confidently. I have 2 martial souls. They are the 3-live soul crush cauldron and the 9 phoenix worshipping flute. The 9 phoenix worshipping flute is a sound type martial soul, and can turn into either a control type or auxiliary type martial soul. My first soul skill is the auxiliary type, and I don't wish to waste it. That's why the 9 phoenix worshipping flute can only be an auxiliary type, whereas my 3-live soul crush cauldron can be a control type or defense type. It can even be used offensively. It belongs in the category of 10,000 gold oil. So from what I see, the abilities that it has can be used for auxiliary purposes. I'm confident in becoming a top-ranked auxiliary type battle soul master if it's paired with my 9 phoenix worshipping flute. Elder Mu laughed. This is a new term to me. I've only heard of auxiliary type tool soul masters. I'm a battle soul master, Xiao Xiao said confidently. My aid will be active. This is my path. Elder Mu looked at her. Are there any other reasons why you've made this choice? Xiao Xiao nodded slightly. Because Shrek's 7 monsters need someone in that role. Elder Mu smiled. Although the smile on his frail and elderly face didn't look nice, it was filled with benevolence and comfort. Very well, you've found your path. I'm happy for you. Xiao Xiao laughed too, but how long will I be here? Elder Mu, I'm hungry. I feel Elder Mu smiled more radiantly. Silly kid, your deep meditation lasted 34 days and 12 hours. Get something to eat first. After that, you can fuse the soul bone you got as a reward. He opened his eyes slowly. His huge, purplish-blue eyes were clear and bright. His body was smooth and translucent, like a golden ruby. A gentle, golden light shone from his body. I never expected my path to be like this. But I'm confident that I'm right. Hui Yuhao opened his arms, and the two of them hugged. Their soul power surged into each other's body at this instant, and the Haodong power also circulated at this point. There was a clear, white halo that surrounded Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong in the center. This led to the formation of a whirlpool. The intense undulation of their soul power burst forth as they surged, which made the both of them feel as if they were filled with strength. He became stronger. This was the same thought that went through Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong's minds. But they didn't simply become stronger. Their strength had soared. Compared to the increase in soul power, it was more important that they could feel a sense of all-roundness on each other that wasn't there before. It's as if their entire strength had been perfectly fused. Their soul master rankings seemed unable to restrain their true abilities anymore. Wang Dong relaxed his arm and asked Hui Yuhao, "Have you found your own path?" Hui Yuhao smiled and asked him back, "What about you?" Wang Dong proudly said, "Of course I did. I'm so talented, of course I managed to find it." Hui Yuhao laughed, "Then I would have found it naturally too. Since you're a talent and I'm better than you, I must be the talent among all the talents." Wang Dong snorted and said, "How are you better than me?" Hui Yuhao chortled and compared their arm muscles. He said, "At least I'm more robust than you. Your body is so soft. While it's nice to hug, it lacks manliness." Wang Dong turned red. "I can't be bothered with you. Tell me, what's your path?" Hui Yuhao, I found, as he spoke till this point, a gentle voice resonated in both their ears. "Come out and speak, Elder Mu." The two of them were stunned as they looked at each other. They didn't expect Elder Mu to be waiting for them. They walked out of the tunnel quickly, and saw the elder lying on the reclining chair in the middle of the hall, Elder Mu. The two of them bowed respectfully. Elder Mu looked at Hui Yuhao before looking at Wang Dong. He revealed a comforted laugh. "It seems like the two of you have also found your paths." Wang Dong was surprised as he asked, "Also? Has Xiao Xiao found hers too?" Elder Mu nodded and said, "She came out earlier than the both of you. Tell me, what are your paths?" Elder Mu suddenly said, "Why don't the both of you write your paths on my hand at the same time?" As he spoke, he smiled while extending both his hands. Elder Mu's hands appeared extremely youthful, unlike his face. His palms were slender, and his skin was clear like jade. A sparkling radiance subtly flashed, but it was different from Wang Dong's glossy skin. There was a sense of simplicity to his palms. Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong stared at each other. They acted with great chemistry, and came to Elder Mu's side. Elder Mu smiled and said, "You can begin." They lifted their hands and extended their index fingers at the same time. They wrote the paths that belonged to them on his palms. These were the paths that they would walk for their entire lives. Elder Mu's smile widened. He clenched his palms into fists when they both stopped. "The two of you have indeed found the paths that belong to you. Very good. I'm very comforted." As he spoke, he lifted his hands and they intersected. His palms faced towards Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong. There were two words on both his palms, and they shone with a dim golden color, Tang Sect. Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong exclaimed together. They were shocked as they looked at each other. They were momentarily stunned. Was this chemistry? It couldn't be simply described using chemistry anymore. The paths they chose were exactly the same. Elder Mu smiled and said, "Wang Dong, tell me first why you chose this path. What does it mean to you?" Wang Dong replied, "I'm actually not very sure myself. Both my martial souls are assault type. Without a doubt, my path should be assault-based. But during the process of deep meditation, the words Tang Sect popped up for no reason. I also realized that my strength is closely related to the different capabilities of the Tang Sect. Besides being unskilled in secret weapons, the rest of the Tang Sect's methods are aligned with my skills. They include the controlling crane capturing dragon, purple demon eyes, mysterious jade hands, ghost shadow perplexing track, etc. Both the radiant butterfly goddess and clear sky hammer require offensive tactics. The most accurate soul master just unleashes his soul power, whereas a stronger soul master unleashes his soul power cleverly. I hope to become a soul master that combines my soul skills with the Tang Sect's techniques. This is the path that I want to take." Elder Mu nodded his head and said, "Very good. Hui Yuhao, what about you?" Hui Yuhao looked at Wang Dong and said, "My situation is more complex than Wang Dong's. But I think that the Tang Sect is more suitable for me." Elder Mu turned his wrists around, and something else appeared in both his palms. In front of Hui Yuhao was the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's left arm bone that he had once seen at the top-ranked auction in the Starlight auction house. A thick, icy fog caused the temperature in the hall to dip quickly. There was a right arm bone in Elder Mu's other hand. This right arm bone presented itself in bright gold, and the radiance that came from it carried an intense aura of sharpness. Yuhao, I've analyzed this left arm bone before. It's a soul bone that came from at least a 10,000-year soul beast. Although soul bone absorption won't be as tremendous as a soul rings reaction, the ultimate ice aura contained within this soul bone is extremely domineering. I believe the saying about the ice explosion technique is real. Are you confident? Hui Yuhao's eyes lit up, and he nodded his head with strength. Elder Mu smiled and passed him the Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. He said, then you can start fusing it here, Wang Dong. This right arm bone is called the Broken Devil of Light. I obtained it when I was young, but it's a pity that I already had 6 soul bones then. Otherwise, you'd have had no fate with it. This Broken Devil of Light came from an extremely rare element-type soul beast. This strong presence can only be nurtured in a place where the light element is in abundance. I'm still not sure what soul skill the Broken Devil of Light carries, and I can only tell when it combines with you. But I'm certain that it carries a powerful offensive soul skill. It also has a strong restraining effect on all dark and evil powers. I believe evil soul masters will be afraid when they see it. When soul bones are being paired, it's best to pair the corresponding soul bone to an existing soul bone that you possess. Since you already have the Golden Light left arm bone, the addition of this Broken Devil of Light will greatly enhance all your soul skills. You can also start fusing it here. I shall protect the both of you. An azure light lit up Hui Yuhao's chest and back. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's skeleton seemed to have been awakened by this left arm bone. The aura of a ruler that belonged to the Ice Jade Scorpions was gradually exuded, while the left arm bone in Hui Yuhao's hands seemed to come alive. It trembled slightly, then leapt up like a child that had seen his mother. It turned into a streak of white light, before penetrating Hui Yuhao's left arm. Hui Yuhao felt the chill this time. The ice-cold flow of gas rose rapidly along his left arm and penetrated his shoulder. Then, it reached his chest and clavicle. An intense, azure light also shone from his body. The power sealed within the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's skeleton was stimulated and rapidly connected with the Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. Hui Yuhao's left arm was also dyed an azure green. An intense undulation of soul power surged maniacally. The pain that he felt when he had once fused the skeleton appeared again. Ultimate ice and heat alternated with each other. Fortunately, it was only on his left arm this time. What, again? Hui Yuhao laughed bitterly in heart. But he couldn't do anything except tolerate it at this point. In fact, it was not that the Ice Empress wanted to train him. It was that the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's skeleton was modifying this Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. No matter how strong this Ice Jade Scorpion was, its cultivation was only around 10,000 years or so, whereas the Ice Empress had cultivated for 400,000 years. The skeleton was the core of the body, and the spine was the most important of the 6 soul bones. The rest of the soul bones connected to it. If it were any other soul bone, the Ice Empress might not be bothered. But this Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone came from the same origin as her, and thus the modifications were very smooth. The key lay in the sense of familiarity. The immense power sealed within the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's skeleton started to surge into the left arm bone. Hui Yuhao wasn't in any danger, but the pain he once felt came back. Shrek Academy. External Courtyard. 2nd grade, Class 1. Why is everyone silent? Have all of you become dumb? Ju Yi suddenly slammed the table and revealed an infuriated look. The students under her kept quiet out of fear, no one dared to speak. Shrek Academy. External Courtyard. 2nd grade, Class 1. Why is everyone silent? Have all of you become dumb? Ju Yi suddenly slammed the table and revealed an infuriated look. The students under her kept quiet out of fear, no one dared to speak. While Ju Yi's teaching method was simple and crude, it was quite suitable if she wanted to intimidate these talented youths. In the past year or so, the students from Class 1 maintained strong camaraderie and achieved significant progress under her. The crucial thing was that they listened to her. No one dared to defy Ju Yi, and all of them diligently completed the tasks that she gave them. While Ju Yi had expelled many in the first academic year, not one student had yet been expelled in the second academic year. She would at most reprimand them if they made mistakes, or even give them 2 kicks. They would be motivated to cultivate harder through this. However, the current atmosphere in the classroom was very tense, and all the students lowered their heads. Ju Yi scanned everyone before she fixed her attention was on Ju Sikhen. Ju Sikhen, stand up. Ju Sikhen lamented in his heart and knew that he couldn't escape. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have become the class monitor after Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong left. Ju Yunchen bit the bullet, stood up and answered, Teacher Ju. Did you not eat? Ju Yi raged, you don't seem to have any guts. You're a man. Puff up your chest. Yes. Ju Sikhen acknowledged her words and puffed up his chest. Tell me, Ju Yi said indifferently, as the class monitor, what are you going to do with regards to the competition suggested by the class 2? Ju Sichen's lips moved a little, and he shouted in his heart, go for it. I'll go. He replied loudly. Ju Yi's eyes lit up. Good. This is how my students should be. So what if you lose? I don't expect you to win. But we must have the aura. As the class monitor, I will give you full authority to choose your team members. Choose another 6 to compete with you. The second academic year was already halfway done, and the midterm exams had ended. Class 1 had tipped Class 2 to become the most outstanding class in the level. This was achieved even without Hu Yuhao, Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao. Early morning. The weather was a little hazy, but the air was very fresh. It carried a slight moisture from Sea God's Lake. When inhaled, it left one feeling relaxed and refreshed. Many students were already gathered at the Seoul dueling area within Shrek Academy's outer courtyard in the early morning. They were all from the 2nd grade of the outer courtyard, and it wasn't just the students from the 1st and 2nd classes. Students from the 3rd and 4th classes were also gathered here. Their reason was very simple, they were here to observe and learn. Ju Yi gave off a very cold and rigid look when she wore a mask. It was as if she was warning everyone not to come close to her. Ju Sikhen and the others were already prepared beside her, but it was obvious that they were still a little anxious from the looks on their faces. The students from Class 2 were a little late. Under Mu Jin's leadership, Dai Huabin and the rest were all feeling very competitive. Even the rest of the students behind them were all in high spirits and looked very proud. It wasn't a surprise that they were like that. The first class of every grade in the outer courtyard was always the strongest, and they were always superior to the other classes. But it was a little special for Class 2 in the 2nd grade. Class 2's abilities were greatly increased because Dai Huabin, Huang Chutian, Wu Feng and the other core disciples that had been chased out of Ju Yi's class. This also developed their competitive streak. Although their overall abilities were still incomparable, Class 2 still possessed an advantage in today's competition. Many of Class 2 students reckoned that Class 1 wouldn't be able to match up to them even if Hu Yuhao, Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao were present. That's because only 7 team members could be selected. After all, Hu Yuhao and Xiao Xiao only had 2 soul rings. In Class 2, it was not only Dai Huabin, who had managed to reach an astounding rank 39 soul power. Xia Huanyue was slightly lousier at rank 35, but was still commendable. The 2 of them were the top 2 in the 2nd grade. Wu Feng and Huang Chutian had crossed the rank 30 mark, whereas Zhu and Kui Ji were only slightly off from rank 30 at rank 29. Ju Sikhen and Cao Jinxian managed to reach rank 28, and were among the top few agility-type students. They were also chosen to compete this time. The depth of Class 2 strength was obvious. On the contrary, the greatest strength of Class 1 was that the average cultivation of the entire class was above rank 25. But none of them were above rank 30 as of now. Ju Sikhen, Cao Jinxian, Lan Susu and Lan Luoluo were all rank 29, while the other 3 were rank 28. There was a huge gap in both teams' abilities. Wang Dong, Hu Yuhao and Xiao Xiao would make it better if they were here. After all, Wang Dong had crossed the rank 30 mark, and Hu Yuhao and Xiao Xiao both had twin martial souls. They would have a fighting chance. Class 1's morale was extremely low, which was a stark contrast from Class 2. All of them lacked energy, which revealed their despondence. After Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong ended their retreat, they both absorbed their respective soul bones before reuniting with Xiao Xiao outside of the Sea God's Pavilion. Elder Mu gave them a few days to rest and allowed them to readjust themselves. They went to obtain their 3rd soul rings after that. It was also at this point that Fan Yu reached the inner courtyard and found Xiao Xiao. Fan Yu didn't tell Ju Yi that Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong had ended their retreat, as he wanted to give her a surprise. At this point, Ju Yi's best students had finally returned. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.